Welcome to Mythbusters Dyslexia Edition. My name is Dr. Kathryn Garforth.
And I am Dr. Jan Hasbrouck. Myth number 1. A sign of dyslexia is writing letters backwards or upside down. B for D, P for Q, etc.
Now, this is one that I think if we look back into the 80s and the 90s, it's how a lot of people were explaining what dyslexia was, and we didn't have that full understanding of how the brain worked and what was required. And now that we've had more neuroimaging studies and a longer time to understand the processes, we actually understand that all children do this, right? And it's a matter of them realizing that when it comes to the case for letters and numbers, that orientation matters, right? I can't remember who did this, but I remember a gentleman holding up a watch and showing it in different orientations and saying, well, it's a watch no matter how you look at it. But when we're introducing children to reading and writing, orientation matters. So they need to make that shift from, well, it's a watch no matter how I look at it, to when it comes to letters and numbers, the shape and the direction of it does matter.
Yes, and I put it as myth number 1 in the book for a reason, because it was very prevalent it was kind of the accepted truth, as you say, in the 70s and 80s, but it remains for a lot of people the first thing that pops into their head when they hear dyslexia. So it's a persistent myth. And yes, the research that we've done, and also just looking at our neurotypical children who learn to read, when they encounter letters and numbers, it really is the first time in their life. They've had years of dealing with the world where whether mom is sitting in a chair or standing up or doing yoga moves, she's still mom, just like you say, the watch or a pen. I mean, they've had years their brain is trained that, position doesn't matter, orientation doesn't matter. And it's like, surprise, 4 and 5-year-old, it does matter. So we know that even our neurotypical children have to go through a little bit of adjustment. Some of them do it almost like instantaneously, like, oh, okay, I get it. But when you get down to such similar things, B and D and P and Q, M and N and those kinds of things, it does take a while for the brain to get that. So it takes some of our dyslexic children perhaps a little bit longer, because we're asking their brains to do so many other things around letters and sounds that don't come easily to them. So they're connecting the sound and the shape and the and how we write it and all of those things. So when we see children in 3rd grade still having those orientation issues, it can be one of several other signs that we should be picking up that dyslexia might be a challenge for that student. But early on in kindergarten and 1st grade, 4-year-olds, parents can relax about that and just continue with the instruction. For many children, just a little bit of instruction and guidance will take care of it, not a sign of dyslexia.
Well, yeah, and then also for our left-handed children, as they learn to print their letters and numbers, you have to remember that these kids are often being taught by a right-handed teacher. So they're mirroring the motions that the individual is doing. And when they're doing that, they're not realizing that they still have to take the orientation of the letter that the teacher's doing and have it in the correct way. So it's having the same motion instead of mirroring the motion. Whereas if they were doing a heart or a triangle or something like that, it wouldn't be as critical, right? And, I've left-handed people in my family and they do check marks the opposite direction just because it's easier, right? So it's just them making that difference and knowing that okay, I need to make sure that I have it looking exactly the same.
Mhm.
And once we get there, it's, it makes a difference.
It does. It does. Yeah.
And, for some kids, especially some of the more neurodiverse ones, it takes actually pointing it out and drawing their attention to it, and then they understand it. But
Mhm.
for a dyslexic, it often, might take a little bit longer. And, there's different things that you can ask them to do, like a bed check, or the one where you go on the hand. So A, B, the circle's here, C, D, the circle's there. Just things like that you can use to help for remembering.
Yeah. Yeah, those cues are wonderful because it's whatever scaffolding they need to get to the point of accuracy. We don't want them to practice wrong or try to guess it. So yeah, B's and D's on their desk or whatever little thing we can
Yeah,
do.
my daughter does the bed check.
Uh-huh. Yeah, that's one I learned too.
Yeah.